Revelation chapter 14. This book has 21 chapters, 21, so we're almost done. And stress. Lean on, trust in, and be confident in the Lord with all your heart and mind, and don't not rely on your own insight or understanding. Proverbs 3:5. Some years ago, I had to face the fact that although I said I trust God, my mind proved that I really didn't. I wanted to trust Him, but the truth was that I worried and felt fearful and anxious in many situations. Being truthful with myself helped me to begin dealing with the negative mental habits that were hindering my faith. I can't say that I'm totally worry-free at this point in my life, but I have come a long way toward the goal. And the less I worry, the less stress I have. There's no doubt that our thoughts and our stress levels are closely connected. Through the various articles I have read over the years, I have learned that stress and worry can affect our physical and emotional health in many ways. Physically, it can affect the nervous system and cause variety of problems. It can also affect the mucus skeletal system, causing headaches and muscle tension. The respiratory system can be adversely affected, causing hyperventilation that can lead to panic attacks. Stress can also affect the cardiovascular system, increase heart rate, artery inflammation. The endocrine system axis stress hormones release. The gastrointestinal system, acid reflux, stomach ulcers, constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, diarrhea, and the reproductive system, lower sperm production, absent irregular menstrual cycle. Emotionally, it can cause anxiety, depression, sleep deprivation, and more. When we worry, we are searching for answers to our problems, hoping we will find a way to control situation in our life. But the truth is that we were never in control anyway. Because God is, instead of using our power to attempt to control the situation and people we should use to control ourselves. Instead of worrying about things we cannot control, we should control our worry. We will never lower our stress level unless we learn to think properly. By properly, I mean believing the best while trusting God to take care of our problems. We can make any problem worse by worrying about it. It is not God's will that we live under the pressure of stress, and has provided a way for us to avoid most of it. Do not let your hearts be troubled, distressed, agitated. You believe in and adhere to and trust in and rely on God. Believe in and adhere to and trust in and rely also in me. John 14:1. Peace I leave with you, my own peace I now give and bequeath to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Do not let your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. Stop allowing yourself to be agitated and disturbed, and do not permit yourselves to be fearful and intimidated and cowardly and unsettled. John 14:27. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving present your request to God, and the peace of God which transcends all understanding will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:6-7. There was a time in my life when I would have read these scriptures verses and thought, I wish I could do that when I have a problem, but I'm just a worrier. But now I know that God didn't create me as a worrier, and since He has instructed me to not to worry, there must be a way for me to avoid it. And here we run into the same principle I have been presenting throughout the book. To avoid worry, we must choose to think positively on purpose. If we are passive in troubled times, our minds will be filled with worry, fear, and anxiety. But we can choose to avoid the stress of those power-draining habits by deciding how we are going to think. Lean on God. It is very important to remember to always lean on God and ask for His grace, strength, ability to help you do whatever needs to be done when it comes to renewing your minds and learning to think the way God thinks. I can tell you that mere trying in our own strength won't work. We need God's help every step of the way. He has equipped us with the mind of Christ. See 1 Corinthians 2:16. He has made right thinking possible for us, but we still need His help. God wants us to be totally dependent on Him rather than being independent. He is waiting to help you. Just ask. Stop upsetting yourself. To upset, it is to make unhappy, disappointed, or worry. It is also described by words like unsettled, disquiet, perturb, bother, agitated, fluster, ruffle, and unnerve. I can't imagine that any one of us would want to do these to ourselves, and yet that is exactly what we do when we choose to worry. Worry is meditating, thinking about your problem over and over. While it may be wise to think through the situation and ponder if there is any action you should take and make things better, it is unwise to let the people sit on your mind like a heavy weight for days at a time, interfering with good thoughts you could be thinking about. The more we worry, the more tension we experience, and the more emotional, distraught, and upset we feel. Our thoughts affect our emotions, and we can upset ourselves or calm ourselves down by what we choose to think about. If I continually think about the wrong things, I can get so upset that I feel as if I may scream. Some people say I feel like I'm losing my mind, and that is exactly what they have done. They have given up on the control of their thoughts to an enemy who is bent on killing, stealing, and destroying. See John 10:10. The destructive side effects. When we feel emotionally upset, we can calm ourselves down by choosing to think on something other than our problems. Invite a friend who is a positive person to lunch, listen to the happy and comforting music, or go do something for someone else in need. I have found that reading material on the effects of stress may also be helpful. When we remind ourselves of a long-term result of our actions, it may help us be wise enough to make a change in how we approach life before serious damage is done. I want some peace. For a large part of my life, I had no idea what stress was doing to me, but I found out when I finally started having serious physical problems. I was working too hard and had done so for too long. I wasn't sleeping enough, and I wasn't saying no to people when really needed to. My life was out of balance. I kept praying for peace and thinking that if people and circumstances would just change, when I could have it. I finally learned that I was the one who needed to change, and that it really wasn't my life, that I was stealing my peace, but I was giving up through wrong thoughts and reactions. My blood pressure was high. I had back and neck pain from tension, daily headaches, acid reflux, constipation, problems sleeping, and eventually an inability to relax the muscles in my body, which ultimately drove me to seek some answers. Like most of us, I wanted an easy fix, so I went to the doctors hoping for a magic pill to swallow once a day that would solve my problems. However, I became even more upset when the doctors told me that although my symptoms were very real, the root cause of my problems was stress. I actually got angry when they told me that, because I viewed stress as me not being able to handle life. I had convinced myself that I was strong and in control, and that the doctors just didn't know what my problem was, so they excused it away with stress diagnosis. That so many people hear. As I continued to have more and more problems, God finally got through to me by putting material in my hands that really helped me understand what stress was and how to begin eliminating it. I had to make several lifestyle changes, and if you are stressed to the point that it is becoming a problem, you will need to do the same. Jesus said that when we are worn out and overburdened, our first response should be to come to Him. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Matthew 11:28-30. Come to Jesus, talk openly to Him about the way you are feeling, and ask Him to reveal to you the changes you need to make in order to begin to heal. They say that only a fool thinks he can keep doing the same thing and get a different result. Prayer doesn't always result in a miraculous delivery from our problems. More often than not, it results in God giving us wisdom and revealing what we need to do with His help to effect the positive change. I like this short story that shows what a waste worry is. J. Arthur Rank, an English executive, decided to do all his worrying on one day each week. He chose Wednesday. When anything happened that gave him anxiety and annoyed his ulcer, he would write it down and put it in a worry box and forget about it until the next Wednesday. The interesting thing was that the following Wednesday, when he opened his worry box, he found that most of the things that had disturbed him in the past 6 days were already settled. It would have been useless to have worried about them. Once I went to Jesus about stress I was feeling. He said, "Joyce, you think too much. I do have a busy mind and tend to think about things that, if left alone, would work themselves out. As I have had my come to Jesus meetings, I have received many simple but stress relieving ideas from him. For example, change my schedule and leave margin in it so I don't end up rushing from things to do with no breaks in between. 2. Take time to do things I enjoy instead of being excessive about work, because no matter how long I work, there will always be more project that needs to be done. 3. Have a plan, but don't get upset if my plan is interrupted for valid reasons. 4. Make better choices about what I eat, because it is true that the kind of fuel I put into my body will determine how well it functions for me. 5. Have a regular bedtime and get good sleep. 6. Don't try to keep all the people happy at all time at the cost of living with unhealthy stress. And last, say no when I need to. These are only a few of helpful things I have learned and now practice daily. But as you can see, they are all fairly simple things. Let me say again that the first thing to do when you are stressed, are ready for help, is to come to Jesus. He will guide and direct you into a healthy lifestyle. Worry causes untimely death. Christy Henrich was a talented American teenager who was one of the country's best gymnasts. When she tried out for the Olympic team in 1988, a judge told her she was too fat. Christy was 4 feet 11 inches and weighed only 95 pounds. Upon hearing the critic of the judge, Christy began starving herself. Some days she ate only a slice of an apple, and if she ate more than that, she would be forced herself to vomit so as not to gain any weight. Though she missed out on qualifying for the Olympic team that year, Christy placed 4th in the uneven parallel bars in the World Championships just a year later. However, Christy's story doesn't have a happy ending. Tragically, Christy Hendrich died at the young age of 22 in Kansas City Hospital. Her organs failed. She weighed only 52 pounds. One of the things that people, and women in particular, worry about is how much they weigh and how they look. Although we do want to maintain normal weight and present ourselves in a pleasing way, we cannot all be stick thin and look as we are the one person in the planet that is free from aging process. That do the best you can. But don't worry about weight and appearances. Make peace with the parts of your body that you don't care for and learn to downplay them while making the most of your strong points. For example, if you don't like the shape of your nose, then make sure you have a stunning hairstyle. If you don't like the way your legs look, then don't wear shorts. Worrying won't change a thing about the way we look. Most of us would not go to the extremes that Christy Henrich did and actually suffer the ultimately untimely death. But we may be shortening our lifespan by worrying excessively about many things, including our weight and appearance. I'm recommending you stop worrying and think excessively about weight if that is a problem for you. If you eat right, you will eventually weigh at what you're supposed to weigh. And it may not be what your skinny friend weighs, but whatever it is, learn to embrace it and stop worrying. Worry never made anyone skinny, but there are lots of people who eat when they're stressed, so maybe adding to your problem instead of solving it. Make a list of things you worry about and pray over it daily, asking God to help you cast your care on Him in each of the areas. As situations come up in your life that would normally cause you to worry, choose to think differently than you have in the past. Strength can be a positive force that helps us perform well in a sport or at a job interview. Faced with challenges or even danger, the body kicks into gear. Hormones flood in that elevate our heart rate, increases blood pressure, boost energy, and prepare us for action. The experts call it fight or flight response. But when we get stuck in the mode, it can have serious consequences on our health. The longer the stress lasts, the worse it is for both your mind and body. God has created us to be able to handle normal amounts of stress, but when we begin to feel tension from it, especially when it is chronic, it is time to take action. God has given us the amazing gift of life, and we should value it enough to protect it. The tension trigger. Learn to recognize tension and let that be a trigger or a signal to purposely relax. I spend a lot of time writing and the stress of deep thought while simultaneously putting those thoughts on the computer, combined with sitting in the same position or hours at a time, can definitely cause tension. My neck and shoulders will be to mildly ache, and if I ignore that signal, they eventually move into pain, and I start to feel exhausted. If I will get up at the first sign of tension, take a short break of even 2 to 5 minutes and stretch a little. It relieves stress, and then you can go back to work. When I'm discussing something with someone and we are getting into a heated disagreement, I can feel the tension as every muscle in my body starts to stiffen. I have learned to let that be a trigger or a signal to either stop talking or take a conversation in another direction. If I am rushing from thing to thing, I may start to feel tense and overwhelmed, and that is a trigger for me. I slow down. We all have little signs that show up in our body letting us know that we are on overload, but we have to learn to respect them. Sometimes I call them warnings. They are like storm sirens that go off, letting us know that a storm is coming. For some, it may be shortness of breath, a headache, an upset stomach, or sweating. But whatever it is, learn to recognize your warning signs and respect them enough to make appropriate changes. The value of solitude. One of the things we lack in our society is solitude. We live in a noisy, high-pressure, busy world where more is expected of most of us than we can possibly do. The world more than likely won't change, but we can. One of the main things that combats and offsets stress is solitude. I absolutely love quiet times, but there was a time when I became restless if things go quiet because I was addicted to noise and activity. I have discovered that even 5 minutes of quiet and solitude can restore my soul to a restful place and relieve stress. It gives me time to actually breathe deeply and do nothing. If we schedule more solitude and quiet time for ourselves, we would probably be able to schedule fewer doctor appointments. If you are like I was, you may have to build up the ability to be quiet. It is difficult for you, then start a few minutes 3 or 4 times a day and gradually increase your tolerance level. My favorite time of the day and the ones that strengthen me most are in the morning before anyone else wakes up, and at night after everyone else has gone to bed. It isn't that I don't enjoy people, because I enjoy them very much, but some quiet time in the morning helps me get ready to be with them, and quiet time in the evening helps me recover from being with them. As well, all know, not all people are easy to get along with, and since we never know what a day may bring, it is best to be spiritually ready. I never found the companion that I was so companionable as solitude. Henry David Thoreau Walden. We tend to think that our existence is only justified when we are doing something, but that is not true. We are human beings, not human doings. God doesn't love us more when we are doing something than He does when we're enjoying quiet. Our busyness makes us feel important, but it doesn't make us more important to God. I finally had to face the truth that I felt more acceptable when I was working than at any other time. For some of that came from my abusive childhood, some of it from my strong, work-oriented temperament, but neither could be an excuse to not change. Whatever the reason was, the result was the same. Too much activity without the solitude was damaging my future and preventing me from enjoying the present. Let me stop and say thank you to my Heavenly Father for revealing to me that He had not created me merely to do, but to also be. So think about it. Your thoughts and your stress levels are closely related. 2. Worry just makes a problem worse. Believe the best and trust God to take care of every situation. 3. To avoid stress and worry, choose to think positive thoughts on purpose. 4. The first thing to do when you are ready for help is come to Jesus. He will guide and direct you into the healthy lifestyle. 5. Make a list of the things that worry you and pray over it. That list daily. Cast your care upon the Lord. So thank you guys so much for reading with me, and I hope to see you next time. So just please guys, do not forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, share, comment, follow me on Instagram, hit the bell for notifications, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye guys.